Welcome back. The Department of Defense is reviewing results from its Data and AI Symposium several weeks ago. The symposium looked at a lot of different aspects of AI use for the department, including large language models and workforce issues. Dave Wennergren's Chief Executive Officer at ACT-IAC. He's former Chief Information Officer of the Navy, former Deputy CIO of DOD, and former Assistant Deputy Chief Management Officer at the Pentagon. Dave, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. DOD's demonstrating with the symposium that they're starting to think about the implications of the technology and not just the technology itself. What are you seeing agencies that are trying to do that, thinking about, talking about, when they're thinking about how does AI change the way we do business, not just the technology itself?
It's great to be here with you, and it's a really important topic to be talking about because, you know, whether it's the simple stuff like robotic process automation all the way up to generative AI and large language models, across government we're starting to see people are actually using this technology to try to take routinized tasks and let machines do them so that the finite number of government employees that we have can actually focus on things that have to be done by government. And there's a lot to be done because, you know, there's still far too many labor intensive, I'll say paper-based, maybe not so much, but not yet digital processes in government. And this is a huge moment of opportunity to look at how can you use these technologies to help improve the speed of decision making, do more evidence-based policy, help advance research agendas, help improve customer experience. So there's just a lot of enthusiasm we see across both the civilian and defense side of the government.
So where that really came into focus in my mind was at your Digital Transformation Summit not too long ago, was out there, had some folks on the FedGov Today podcast to talk about the work that they were doing. And AI is at the root of a lot of those transformations, but for the reasons that you're talking about, and thankfully not folks just saying, well, we should get some AI because it's cool and everybody's doing it, right?
And that's so important because what often happens when you have a new technology like this, just like when digital services became a thing, we tend to work at the margins. And it's very simple to say, well, we're going to improve a website marginally or take some non-core process and do something with it. But that isn't what turns the tide. You need to do something that's going to actually move the agenda forward, and that's why it's so important to focus on what are the core missions of the agency and how can you use these technologies to reduce friction, improve access, you know, speed up processes. And so once you start taking on bigger programs and bigger initiatives, that's when you're going to win the hearts and minds of everybody because there's an enthusiasm to use these tools that people are taking up even in their personal life. And if we can help focus on outcomes for the mission of the agency, then we'll make progress at the agencies too.
So there's two words then that it sounds to me like should be at the core of what agencies should be thinking about along those lines, and those two words are business processes, right?
Yes.
Not the technology and not the way that those processes are executed, but the steps that they ask a citizen or an employee or someone else to take to achieve whatever the outcome is they're supposed to deliver. Am I on the right track?
You're on the right track. It's, you know, it's an old story, but it's still an important story that there's a lot of process improvement work that can be done. And sure, there are challenges here, but they're not challenges that we can't overcome. I mean, you know, tech modernization, you know, there's a direct correlation between the progress that you've made on your IT modernization and the ability to adopt these new technologies. You've got to have a workforce that's ready and trained to use these new technologies. And, oh, by the way, remember that the workforce has to include your industry partners because there's not enough skill just within government to do all this work on their own. And are you ready for cultural change? Can you embrace that? And then probably most important for the conversation is, you know, are you thinking about the ethical adoption of AI?
You make an interesting argument before we went on the air about a way that artificial intelligence can help the Federal Information Technology Acquisition Reform Act scorecard. Make that for folks that are watching on TV now because I think it's really fascinating.
Yes.
What's the connection between AI and the FITARA scorecard?
So number one, as you said, the FITARA and its related scorecard is really good that we've done that, right? The fact that things that you measure are the things you focus your time and attention on. The fact that Congress is checking in on somewhat esoteric things like IT governance and tech modernization is really good. But the scorecard's been around for a while now, and if you looked at the most recent iteration that came out last month, you know, the changes to it are marginal so far. And the pace of technology has changed dramatically. And it's a time to double down on can we improve and enhance the FITARA scorecard to keep it relevant? And should we be looking at things like, do you have a strong technology modernization plan? Are your cybersecurity measures the kinds of things that are focusing on new cyber tools like zero trust? Do you have an emphasis on customer experience? Are you monitoring and accelerating the implementation of AI and dealing with things like CIO authorities? We can make some adjustments to that scorecard that would again help to drive the implementation.
All right, 30 seconds. Who has to do what in order to make that happen? Is it just up to Congress and GAO to change the scorecard, or is there something somebody else can or should do?
Well, we've got a group of industry experts, former IT leaders that have offered some great recommendations. I think, yes, congressional staffs, Congress, OMB, federal agencies are already partners trying out some of these new measures. So takes a village. We could do this together.
All right, I have a message to everybody in the GovCon community that thinks that you and I are the same person because they think we look alike. This is proof that we're not the same person, Dave. It's great to see you as always, my friend.
Great to be